Fabulous. Good evening, everyone. We'll give you just a minute or two to settle in while everybody gets logged in, turned on. Hello. Hi.
Hey,
nice
Becky.
to see you, Mark. How are you?
Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
Fabulous.
That's
Hi, everyone. I can see so many fabulous faces.
Hi, thank you.
Hello, you okay? You managed to get on okay?
Yeah, thank you.
I had a lot of people say to me, where's the Zoom link? And I'm tagging people and sending it. It can get a little bit overwhelming sometimes.
I
can't
know.
it?
I just, my husband, yeah, stop doing hyperventilator. We found you. But I can't find it. I can't find it. I don't know what it is.
Oh, bless you. I mean, we are recording it, so you can always go back and watch it, which is fabulous. So hi everyone, thank you so much for joining. We've still got a few people joining as well, which is lovely. If you guys are all okay for now to just mute your microphones, that would be really helpful. You can absolutely unmute in a little bit. Let me just help some of you guys out. Oh, I've muted Andrew, I've muted you. Hang on. That's a good start, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's often people say that's the best way to hear me. You didn't have to laugh that much, everybody.
Okay, fabulous. So we've still got a few people joining, so I'm going to keep admitting people, but I'm just going to quickly say hello. There's so many people here that I know. Hi. There's quite a lot of people here that I don't know as well. So welcome to Ask Becky. For anybody that doesn't know what Ask Becky is, it is a free weekly Zoom session. We run this usually on a Wednesday night, and it is literally just a drop in where you can come and ask anything. And it isn't just Ask Becky. We have so many fantastic ADIs and PDIs that join us every week. There's a couple on here which I can see, and it's more like a community where you can come and talk about your week, talk about your day, and get some advice if you need it. Tonight we've got a special, so we're on a Tuesday, which is amazing. I might at the end of the session say have a good Wednesday because I'm used to that. But yes, it's a special this evening, and we are joined by Andrew Love, and I'm going to pass over to Andrew to introduce himself to you. So hi Andrew, thank you for joining us. Over to you.
Hello Becky. Hello everybody. It's great to see so many people on the session. Becky said to me, how would you like me to introduce you? Well, I'm just an ADI of 20 years, and Helen's looking at me now. But the point I want to make here is I started as an ADI, and I've just worked pretty hard, done a lot of CPD, and spent money looking at where I want my business to go. And I've been very fortunate to be able to do lots of things. So I'm on the audit register, I'm on the fleet register, I've worked with ROSPA, and I work with lots of different types of people. So this week I'm working with some full license holders, I'm working with a couple of learners, I'm working with some PDIs and some ADIs, and it's just a fabulous job. One thing I would say is keep learning. That's all I would say.
That's a brilliant introduction. Thank you so much. I'm already giving advice, and we've not even asked for it yet, which is brilliant.
Oh. I'll shut up now then.
Well, not for too long, because hopefully you guys kind of understand the gist of this. We're here to help anybody here that's got any questions. If you've got questions on qualifying, part 3 stuff, lessons in general, teaching methods, being an ADI, diary management, anything at all, use us while we're here. Use this opportunity. And if anything comes up in the future that you think I need a bit of help, we're always available. And we'll talk to you at the end of this of how you can find us. So we're going to crack on and talking about some things that I've been sent in to ask you, Andrew. During our conversation, if you guys have got any questions or any comments to do with anything that we're talking about currently, please pop it in the chat. I'm going to keep an eye on the chat. So if you have any questions at all, or you want to unmute and you want to chat with us about something specific that's for you, you are more than welcome to do that. Just let me know in the chat and we'll get you on if that's okay. Thumbs up if that all makes sense, everyone. Fabulous. So we know our roles and responsibilities. Everyone knows what everyone's doing. Beautiful. Okay, Andrew. So the first question I got sent when I put this post up and I said, you know, we're going to have this session. I asked people if they couldn't make it on, send some questions. And the first one that pinged into my inbox was, can you please ask Andrew, what do you think makes a good instructor?
Okay, so what do you think makes a good instructor? This for me is very important. Empathy, yeah? Recognizing that learners will learn from themselves. Some of you may have heard me say this. People learn in spite of me being their trainer. Because what they do, I create an environment and they go away and they think about stuff and they learn it all on their own. And I can't charge them for it. Yeah. But also allowing them to play. Because they will work it out themselves. We just need to facilitate what we do. So listening is very important. Watching the body language is very important. And being quite calm, yeah. Making sure that we're not sending signals to people, to our drivers.
Brilliant.
And also expectation. If we say to our learners, your learners, yeah, think about the implication there. They're learning, yeah. So they've got to rise to a standard. But if we start it off saying, look, you're the driver, if we now call our learners drivers, what's the difference in expectation? If somebody wants to come in on that, that would be really great.
So if you kind of treat your learner not like a learner, if you treat them a little bit more equal, that's something that could sorry, let me just admit people.
Ownership. Who was that? Hello. Mark. What do you mean by ownership? Oh, one thing I would like you to do is know how I ask questions, yeah, and how I respond to questions, because that's something that's coming up as well. Sorry, Mark. Ownership. What do you mean by that?
Well, if you call them the driver, all of a sudden that's it's almost like a role title, isn't it? Actually, you are the driver, and therefore you implicitly have responsibility to keep us safe, etc., etc. So it's about, I don't know, kind of setting a bit of a mindset, I guess.
Yeah, setting a mindset. Yeah, and what does that by helping them with that mindset? How does that help them take responsibility?
Well, you've kind of given them that role, haven't you? I can't remember what the original term you used was. Student, was it? Learner, whatever.
Learner,
pupil.
Yeah.
That's kind of a not negative, but it's a little bit backward looking. Whereas if you say you're a driver, you're the driver, it's more forward looking, and it perhaps gives them that, that almost subconscious minds, can't think of a better word than mindset, that this is their role here today, and they're doing the driving, and with that comes responsibility.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, because what we're changing now is we're changing the expectation from them learning to them driving. So straight away they're taking responsibility. Also, it changes the expectation from the trainer. Yeah. So the trainer now knows that they're going to be able to drive. And how is that going to improve their confidence if I expect them to be able to pick it up?
Andrew, we've got Steve Richardson. He's got his hand raised. Hi, Steve. Do you want to come in and join the chat?
Yeah, thanks for that. Listening to what you're saying there, you're talking more about psychology than anything else, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Some people have called me the scary psychologist, Steve. So just explain that psychology for me.
The way I'm thinking about it, the way I'm looking at it, is that if we get them to believe that they actually can do what they're doing, or they are more in the early stages, they are capable of doing what they're doing, then there's a better chance of them being able to do it than them being able to do what they're doing.
That's it. So if we give that expectation, if we help them realize that yes, you can do this. And one of the things is that people don't know what they know. They also don't know what they don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we can draw this out of them, encourage them to have a go, be curious.
I didn't know you were a dentist.
I didn't know it was a dentist.
Well, sometimes it's like drawing teeth, isn't it?
It is. It is. If we can encourage them to play and try and be curious about stuff, and set the scene, my expectation is they are drivers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that. Carmen, you've got your hand raised. Do you want to join in the chat?
Yeah, thank you. Andrew, what you say is what very good advice, and I do that with my students. However, I have one student, she will about 100 hours already, and I keep on telling, you are the driver, you need to start to make decisions. We started with very little decisions, so was the speed limited, or where you position your car, or can you overtake it or no? Now, she refused to be called a driver because I keep on saying, you are the driver, you take responsibility. I'm a learner. And she refused to change the setup of the mind. And so I can't make the lesson progress because she refused to be in the driving seat.
Okay, that's really interesting. She's refusing to be in the driver's seat. So what's behind this refusal? Yeah, what is it that's actually going on? What is she thinking at this point? And part of our role is to draw out exactly what it is. Find out the reason that she doesn't want to take.
I guess she's been diagnosed. She's haven't been diagnosed with in the spectrum, because little things like the first things I said to her is one day somebody overtook her in 30 miles an hour where she was doing 30, but somebody overtook her, and I go just funny things like, oh, don't worry, they may need a toilet. She turned around to me and says, so every time you need a toilet, you can go faster. And I go, okay, you take literally everything I say. Yeah. So that is you being in the border of the spectrum, but she'd never been diagnosed with 60 years old. She's 60 now. And so I guess that's the main thing for her.
So how did that diagnosis come about?
She never had diagnosis. She never had. It's just something I think she had. But as I say, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a doctor, so I can't diagnose anything, but that's my idea. Yeah. So I try to work it out from that area with her. And it works. It works very well for her. So like takes things literally and, working. But the driving things is not taken. It's not, I'm a learner.
So here, let me see if I've got this right. You believe that she's on the spectrum?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you think if you think that, how do you think that might affect the way you treat her?
I don't know, I guess I gave you more explanation of things, how I asking more from her as a, what do you understand about this, instead of telling her. So like we go to a dual culture way, why is important the mirrors? Why do you think we use them? You know, simple things like that. And instead of telling her why the mirrors are important.
So if she's not using mirrors on a regular basis, I would be looking at the reasons why.
I make her walk. Sorry, I make her walk backwards outside the road. So we were outside the car, and I make her go backwards. So walking backward, and I just saw, what are you doing when you're walking backwards?
Yeah. So here we need to understand the reason she's not using the mirrors. We can give techniques.
Yes.
We can ask them, okay, about the importance of mirrors. But what we really need to get to the bottom of is what's the reason that the mirrors aren't being used. Yeah. So and that's the bit that we really need to get to and understand that and find their way of doing things. And often, well, we're the experts in driving. They are the experts in how they learn, and encourage them to help you understand the best way that they learn. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to a question that we've had in the comments so that we can start making our way through, because we've had a few, so thank you guys. So we've had a question from Christian. What is the key thing that you should focus on if your goal is to get over 45 points or a grade 8 on your part 3? I love training. How would you guys go about it? So if your goal is to get over 45 points or a grade 8 on your part 3, what are the key things that you should focus on?
Is that for me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So here, focus on really giving a great lesson. Yeah. And there's a number of things that we can do. Well, a lot of people say you need to plan the lesson. Okay. My interpretation is just a little bit different. I think what we've got to be, we can't plan directly for everything that goes on, but what we can do is look at the student, look at the errors they are likely to make and when they're likely to make them, and then put a little mini lesson plan in place. The other thing we can do is on the training area, so Kettering Test Centre is where I do a lot of my work. We've got a series of roundabouts. So what I do when I'm planning an assessment or something, well, it's not just for assessment, it's for every lesson really, is I think about what things could go wrong at this point, and I call them the critical control points. So as we're approaching this roundabout, what things could go wrong? Yeah. If that goes wrong, or if they make that mistake, what am I going to do? What can I do to get that correction in? Have I got to go back round to that point? Or is it enough for me to deal with that at the next similar junction or roundabout? So go through and plan the critical control points. Now, the reason I don't do it for every lesson is because once you've started planning for these things, okay, for what could go wrong at this point, all of a sudden you're building up lots of mini lesson plans. So you've got lots of your contingency planning. The other thing I would do is be quite direct. Okay, so you straggled the roundabout at that point, at the last roundabout. Yeah. What were you thinking as you approached that roundabout? What was it that you chose to go and straddle that line. Yeah. So be direct with the point. It's no point saying to them, oh, how do you feel that went? Oh, it went brilliant. Actually, it didn't. Go direct for it. Identify the issue and then come in with the questions. Yeah. And find out from them what was actually happening at the time.
Can I ask you a question?
Who was that?
Is
Christian.
Christian.
Yeah.
Christian's the one that asked the original question. So
Yeah.
yeah, go
Hello,
for it,
Christian. Yeah.
Hi, Andrew. Sorry. So we actually work out really well. I'm from Northampton.
Oh, right. Okay.
I did quite a lot of training. I actually just came from a workshop yesterday from the ADI kit people.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Lee and Mick. Yeah. Yeah.
And I've tried a few things that I've learned yesterday at the workshop, and what you are saying is exactly what came up and I did today. However, they did mention that we should start with a positive and then go to the mistake that they made. Is that does it matter that much? How would it go? You know, how would they look at that? Do you need to always start with a positive?
Okay, so here, okay, we can go what went well, what didn't go so well. Yeah. It's dependent on the situation. Yeah. So if it's a direct error, okay, just point it out. Yeah. Then you might say, well, what went well, what didn't go so well. But what really we want to do is draw out what was happening at the time. Yeah. Now, it depends in what context that was. Reflection. So if we look at the examiner's guidance notes, they've got a reflective log, which is what went well, what didn't go so well, what are you going to do differently? There are times when we can use that, but if we're dealing with an error, get directly to the error first. Yeah, because then you can do it. And you can use the what went well, what didn't go so well, what are we going to do differently as we move on during the session.
So to put a bit more context to that, is it fair to say that you'd use to be direct at something that was, let's say, safety critical, so not stop you at a roundabout, but you would try and be positive first when you try to correct mirrors, for example?
Okay, so when we're trying to correct mirrors, I want to understand the reason that they're not using the mirrors.
Yeah, I got that. I know that. But when you are pointing them out at first, that's what I'm trying to understand, because I don't want to put them down when I want to talk to them about it. Because I found that if you put them down all the time, it feels like they don't want to answer and they don't want to say anything about their feelings at all.
Okay, so here, okay, let me just think about this. So we have to be honest with our feedback. Yeah. And what we can, there are times when we can use what went well, what didn't go so well. So for example, I generally do about 5 or 10 minutes, what went well, what didn't go so well. Yeah. If we're doing reversing or something like that, and they're working it out for themselves, what went well, what didn't go so well. Yeah. So, and often when I start with new drivers, I say to them, what do we need to know? Yeah. How do we need to move the car? And then I say, well, what was good about that? What wasn't so good about that? But if they're approaching too fast, okay, and they don't recognize it, then you need to tell them. So,
okay.
And it goes back to the point, they don't know what they don't know. Yeah. So if it's not right, you got to tell them. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I got that. I was trying to figure out how would you plan to get a grade A. I'm not trying to plan my lesson at all. Just trying to learn what to do about when something comes up and how would you go about it.
Yeah. So what I would encourage you to do is think about the training area, think about those critical control points, think about the errors that you will expect your learners to do, and your driver to do. Each driver will be different. Yeah. So think about those driving errors that they're making, or the driving choices that they're making. And then when you so you're planning, so what you've got is a bit of an arsenal of mini lesson plans. So if you know that they're always going to be just left of the center line when they're turning left, then you've got a couple of mini lesson plans to deal with that. Yeah.
Okay, so adaptations, that's what you'd
That's
expect
it.
of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
Lovely, thank you for that. I guess I'm just going to chuck my input in for this as well, because I think absolutely what you said there is, Andrew, is completely correct. It's you know, if your learner's just nearly killed you on a roundabout, you're not going to say, well done for your mirrors, signal was spot on, but you just nearly killed me. We're not going to faff about like that. If something safety critical has happened, you nearly killed me there. Why do you think you nearly killed me? We're going to get to the point. If you are practicing something at just like reversing, like whatever, there is nothing wrong with saying, what's going well here? How are you getting this right? What's not going well? What do we need to change? Killing's an extreme example, but that's kind of the way I would look at things. You know, if something's gone wrong and they're showing a lack of knowledge and understanding, let's get to the point about it, especially in your 45 minutes that you've got. You don't want to faff about pointing all the good things, because there'll be loads of good things. You can absolutely raise the good things when it's appropriate. And I guess it's about knowing that whether it's appropriate or not. You don't want to just drive around going, yep, great mirrors, yep, great this, great that. If it's not relevant, if there's no point, it can end up a bit like waffle. So when you get your, I call it the instructor gut, you get your gut feeling that that wasn't right, there's something's not gone quite right there. That's the kind of stuff that we want to be pouncing on. We don't need to fluff up everything else first to then pick on the negative kind of thing. We want to get to that point, but you mentioned, Christian, I think you said something like they feel like you're picking on them, putting them down. You can word it in some of the ways that Andrew said, you know, why do you think you chose to do that? And it then doesn't feel like they're being put down. It feels like you're working with them, you're having a conversation with them to get them to reflect and go, oh, that's why I did it, and that's why I shouldn't do it, that kind of thing.
So
go on.
Just quickly, that's why I can understand that. So instead of saying why did you make that fault, you are going to just switch it up a bit and go with like, why did you choose to do that? Is that the difference there?
Yeah, that's what Andrew said. Yeah, why did you choose to do that? Yeah, something like that would work great.
So
thank you.
Can I just explain this bit about driving choices? People don't crash because of lack of skill. They crash because they've made the wrong driving choice. Yeah. So when we're working with people, if we can help them understand why they've made that choice, or understand why they've made that choice, then we can help them develop strategies to deal with that going forward. Yeah. And I think that's very important. You know, people choose to go out and drink and drive. Yeah. People choose to speed. People choose to do a right corner cut. Yeah. So understand why they're making those choices. And it's all about the psychology, Steve.
Brill. So we're going to move on to the next question, just because we've had a few come through and I want us to try and get through them as quick as we can. So the next question we had was, please can I ask about pitching it at the level of students' ability?
Okay, that's really interesting. So let's think about the level of their ability. First of all, will their ability change at different times? So who's taught people over the period of A-level exams, their finals. Yeah, Tanya, how's that been? Has it been like there's been an evil twin with your driver? Yeah, all of a sudden they're not the same drivers. Yeah, is it like that, Tanya?
It wasn't Tanya, it was that question. It was Jojo Mo.
Jojo, no, I think I saw Tanya's hand go up when I said, yeah, have you taught anybody there? Yeah, yeah.
I did it as well. I don't know if it were me, but yeah, we like even A levels, anything, can't it, can affect the driving. Not if it's they've had a late night, or if they're stressing about home, or the boyfriend's fell out with them, or the mate left them, or everything changes the driving.
So here their ability will change for what's going on in their life at the time. So how can we recognize that? How can we recognize that? Anybody?
I'd say quick chat at beginning, just been like, how's your day, and see if it crops up. Or like you said, just watching, like you say, if you notice something and be like, well, they don't normally do this, then have a quick chat again. But
yeah.
Body language.
Body language. Who said that?
Carmen.
Carmen, yeah, body language. Watch the body language. Yeah. And then what we can do is we can adapt what we're doing to what's happening. So if we're watching them and they're making improvements, then, so for example, if we're working on approach speed at roundabouts, for example, what skills are we likely to be using when we're approaching a roundabout and reducing speed? What skills?
Before you approach the roundabout, looking, if there's a gap going to be there before you even get there, are you going to need to stop?
Yeah, so we're going to be looking at judgment skills. We're going to be looking at control of the vehicle, using the brake. Okay, we're going to be looking at anticipation, forward planning skills. Yeah, so let's think about that. If they've done really well at a roundabout, for example, and they've nailed it, they've got the judgment skills and things like that, where else could they apply those skills? In what other situations could they apply those skills?
Do you mean other than driving?
Sorry, Christian first, and then was it Alison?
Joe.
Sorry, Joe.
I thought you wanted to know where they can apply the skills.
Yeah. Where else can they apply those skills?
The entrance of dual carriageways, junctions.
Yeah.
Every single driving aspect.
That's so that's right. So what we can do now is, if they're at roundabouts, we can think about maybe going to apply those skills on dual carriageways. So those anticipation skills, the judgment skills, yeah. Or we can go and do country roads, limit points, things like that. So the observation, the anticipation, the braking. So all of a sudden now, it's not the topic we're teaching, it's the skills we're enhancing. And when they've nailed those skills, we then apply them into different situations. And I would always encourage them to tell me where they believe they could do it, and then go and do it in that area.
So we're turning what they know into what they think they don't know, basically, aren't we?
Yeah, we're going from the known to the unknown, and we're helping them apply it in a different area, Steve.
Yeah, so if we can get them to believe that they do know it, because they do, because they've just demonstrated they can do it.
Yeah,
that again is going back to psychology, isn't it? It's brainwashing them, for want of a better term.
I brainwash people.
Well, we do, don't we? we get them to actually believe they can do something when they think they can't.
That's right. yeah. So what we want to encourage. Once they've done it, once they've achieved it, where else can we achieve it?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we're going back to the matrix, really, aren't we?
Yeah, the GDE. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you've not heard of the Goals for Driver Education Matrix, it's very important that you understand it. Okay. And often it comes down to this, the reason for the journey. And the way that I describe the best way to think about the Goals for Driver Education Matrix and the reason for the journey. Okay. Helen, can you answer this for me? Yeah. So, Helen, if you're on your dream holiday and you're approaching a set of traffic lights that are on green and they turn amber and you're late, what are you likely to do?
Me personally, I would stop.
Oh, really? If you're gonna lie, don't laugh. Yeah.
Your little tinker.
Yeah. So most people would do what?
Put the foot down and get through.
Put the foot down, of course. Now, you're going exactly the same set of traffic lights on a Sunday afternoon when you go into the in-laws. What are you going to do now?
Slap it in reverse and go back.
Gently slow down and stop.
That's the reason for the journey affects how the reason for the journey affects driving choices. There's also including increased risk-taking factors and self-evaluation in that as well. But essentially, if we think about the Goals for Driver Education Matrix that way, it just makes it so easy. And we can discuss with people their risk. And also, it's about, you can adapt the lesson. So when we say, okay, so where else might we use those skills? Okay, and we're thinking about going on to rural roads or something, then we might ask something or say something like, tell me about your speed choice. Even if their speed choice is what you would choose, we want to understand, was it a lucky guess or what was it a considered choice? Yeah. And then we can start saying to people, well, when would there be a time when you're not traveling at that speed? Yeah. What situation might you be traveling slower? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Perfectly so. I'm going to move on, Andrew, if that's okay. I want to try and get as many as we can. We may have to arrange another one of these because there's so many questions, which is so good. So Rim has asked, Rim is a PDI and they started teaching a couple of weeks ago and their pupil has no experience. She's happy with you and making great progress, but even with that, you feel like you're doing it all wrong and you feel like you find yourself spending hours preparing for the lesson, routes, questions. You think about it that much that you're second guessing yourself. So to sum up, how do I know if I'm doing it right or just going with the flow as a new PD?
So here you're worried that you're doing it wrong. Yeah. What if you're doing it right? Have you ever thought about that? What if we're doing it right? And what does right look like?
That's exactly the thing. I don't know what right looks like. I'm sorry, I didn't say hi.
Yeah.
But it's because I have nothing to compare to. The only thing I remember is when I was a learner myself.
Okay. So, Rim, what we'll do, what I'll just ask is, when we assess somebody who's driving, what do we assess them against? What standard do we assess them against?
DES.
Sorry?
No? I mean DES, the driving essential skills.
Yeah, but whose driving do we assess it?
Yourself.
To ourselves,
yourself.
no?
Our own.
Yeah, our own. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when the driving examiners are marking or assessing an error, they say how far away from the defined outcome was it? And the defined outcome is what would I have done in that situation? Yeah. So first of all, if you keep your driving standard up, you'll know when it doesn't feel right, and then reflect on how things changed. So what did you do to facilitate that behavioral change or that change in that drive at that particular point? Was it successful? Was it not? Yeah.
Yeah.
If it wasn't successful, think about what you could have done differently. Was it successful because it with this person, but it wasn't successful with somebody else? Yeah. So you've got to trust yourself. Yeah. You have done all of your training. You've done all of the hard work. Trust in yourself. Does that make sense?
It does. But at the same time, like when people are going and like failing their part 3, when they're teaching their pupils on day to day, they're having passes, they're up to standard, but they end up failing for a reason or another. That's what I'm trying to see. Like, where am I from there? I know I'm very early on and I still have a long way to go, but that's what I'm trying to figure out. Am I doing it to the right standards or not?
So I always encourage my PDIs to do is reflect on their session, 2 or 3 sessions a week. And what I try and get them to do is reflect on the competencies and where they feel their strengths are in the competencies. So go through each one and give yourself a mark out of it. Do you understand it? Do you not understand it? Then take 3 that are at 1, and then what we can do is work on those 3, understand those competencies, work on them, and what you'll find is as you work on those 3, it will improve your the other competencies. Does that make sense? And all we can do is just keep reflecting. Reflective practice is very powerful.
What I found helps an awful lot is to get the marking sheet, the ADI's marking sheet, or the examiner's marking sheet, and mark yourself at the end of the lesson. And then do reflection on that. And you'll find that after a short space of time, your marks will start coming up. But you need to be very honest with yourself when you do it. If something wasn't right, then don't put it down as being right. Be very honest with yourself. But I find it made a world of difference.
And don't be too hard on yourself.
Exactly, and don't be too hard on yourself.
Yeah.
You gotta be honest.
Yeah. I'm just about getting it right, and I'm 20 years in. Yeah, mind you, a couple of things.
Yeah, but when you get to our age, it starts going off, doesn't it?
I couldn't possibly come out. I'm only 45.
You got the bad paper out.
Yeah.
Just to follow on from your point there, I've just put an acronym in the comment and someone's put question marks. So I'm just going to quickly explain it. So at my kids' school, they use something called a WAGOLL, which is WAGOLL, which is what a good one looks like. And when I work with PDIs, I had a PDI in car today, and we were looking at how you identify faults within a learner. And the learner said, yeah, but how do I know? The PDI said, how do I know if it's a fault or not? And I said, but you know what a good one looks like. You know what good looks like because you're advanced drivers, you've passed part 2. So just remember that, and that's going to help give you a bit of self-belief as well. You're gonna think, yeah, actually, I passed part 2. I know what a good one looks like. If you know what a good one looks like, you're going to know when your learner is doing or not doing something that you would or wouldn't do. if they do something or don't do something that you would or wouldn't, we're going to take that as a golden nugget and think, now I've got something to work on. So just remember, waggle, what a good one looks like. I can understand the question marks. It is confusing. So we'll move on to the next question, if that's okay. Let me just see if I can find it. If I miss any, I'm so sorry. Lily said she's failed an attempt at part 3 to not adapt in. The feedback was that she seldomly noticed errors being made, didn't refocus and adapt the lesson. You got a good score in risk management, Lily. The examiner said you asked good questions, but you were still asking and helping towards the end in the same area. Should you have adapted the lesson as soon as I have to help or ask about anything? So I guess this is about adapting in the moment in your part 3. Should you do this? Should you do that? What do you reckon, Andrew?
So here it goes back to recognize when the change has taken place, okay, and then ask, where else can we adapt those, where else can we put those skills? Yeah. And adapting the lesson is one of the biggest reasons for people not being successful. And sometimes it's because we're under so much pressure, yeah, so much pressure, that we forget to look for the good stuff and we don't enjoy what we're doing at that time. If we can, so what we want to educate, before we can educate, we've got to entertain people. Once we've entertained people, we then can engage with people, and then we can educate. And that is not just about the driver of the vehicle, it's also the person in the back. Yeah. So if we can entertain them and get them to think, wow, this is good. Yeah. All of a sudden now, what you're now seeing is that they will be taking note because you're doing it's a bit different. Yeah. So focus on what the issues are, correct them, get them to come up with the solution if you can, and then get them to adapt it into a different situation. Where else can we use those skills? Have I said that once or twice tonight?
Just a few times, yeah.
Just a few times. Honestly, I'm not a broken record. I'm really...
No, it works well, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mark has asked a question in response to what you're saying. Should we deal with the fault there and then and rework the lesson plan? You've kind of answered that a little bit, but should we deal with the fault there and then?
So, I'm of it depends what the error is. Yeah. Deal with the most critical first. Okay. So if they're not checking the mirrors, and they're not signaling, and their approach speed is too fast, if you deal with the approach speed and get to understand why they're traveling at that speed, then what you'll find is once you've dealt with that, the signals and the mirrors will come back in. Does that make sense? Yeah. Does that answer your question, Mark?
Yeah. I mean, it was in the context of the original question, which I think was about the part 3 fail, which was not adapting the lesson.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So there, if you've got an error, so this is what I was saying at the beginning. Okay. So if you understand, so what I tend to do with my PDIs is a week before I sit with them, with the person they're going to take, and we tend not to do anything, any teaching or anything like that, because and we'll not tell them what the faults are, okay, or the errors are. What we do is we then put a plan in place to for those errors to re-emerge. Yeah. And then we've got a little bit of a mini plan there that we can go up and we can deal with. Yeah. So, and the reason I don't get them to highlight the errors, unless it's safety critical, of course, is because they'll go away and they'll think about it and they'll put a correction in without you being there, because they think they'll be doing you a favor by correcting it before the examiner's seen it. Yeah. So because they want to look good as well. So if there is an error that you can fix it. If you're on the way back from your part 3 and there is an error, but you haven't got time to fix it, tag it. You've just gone too fast on the approach to this roundabout. We'll deal with that on the way home. Yeah. So you're tagging it. Yeah. Remember, the examiners want to see you identifying the faults, analysing them correctly, and then putting a fix in place. And when I said, sometimes they're not doing the mirrors properly, their signals, but they're approaching too fast. Often, if you get that approach speed sorted and understand why they're approaching at that speed, and sometimes it might be because they just feathered the brake rather than pushing right down on the brake. They don't recognise that. The other things will fall into place. So
okay. So I think what you're saying then is call it out, make a note of it.
Yeah.
Let the student know that it's happened. Don't necessarily try to fix it there and then.
Not everything.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
analyze.
Don't overload them.
Yeah. So bite-sized chunks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bite-sized chunks. And then what you'll find is the most serious one, or look for the one that's going to have the most effect. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you very much for that. Lily, I can see you waving. Hello.
I don't want to interrupt too much. That's all sounding great. I just still a little bit confused about when to, because in my part 3 attempt, it didn't seem safety critical to me. And I think that's because I asked those questions and we managed to handle the situation together. So to me, it didn't seem an issue. And it only happened twice at the start of the lesson once the examiner was in the car with us, and then a couple times near the end as well. So I don't really, I came away a little bit confused, because should I have adapted it after it happened twice? Because it happened the first time, we dealt with it, happened the second time. So it's just sort of anticipating how far they could see how a speed sort of approach to different situations.
Okay.
So it was a little bit, because I was under the impression that if it's safety critical, adapt. And usually that's quite obvious.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you feel uncomfortable, what was it? Did you say there was an approach speed to?
Yeah, and
hazards?
it wasn't like he was flying towards something. It just felt a little bit too fast, like he wasn't really reacting to what was coming up. And
okay.
Managed to have sort of time to ask, how much space have we got? How far can you see?
Yeah.
And he answered and reacted, and it was fine. But
so, did you get to the bottom of the reason that they were going too fast, or they weren't reacting?
Not in the moment, because I felt like we had dealt with. I think in the moment I just felt like we had dealt with the situation and we'd managed to keep it sort of under control.
Yeah.
And then the following lesson, obviously after the examiner's feedback, was like, right, we're going to do anticipation and planning.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely fine. So it might have just been a bit of nerves being in that condition.
They're going back to the reason of the journey, the driver that you take wants to do the best for you. Yeah. And in that situation, try and understand. So what was it about that situation? What was it about that approach that, what were you thinking about? What was your considerations? So you find out exactly what it was that they were concerned about, or they were thinking about, because they might have been distracted by something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably what we were last doing, just
Yeah.
down the road.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it could be that. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you, Lily.
Thank you.
This is a good question. In a simple statement, so as simple as you can say it, what is an examiner in a Part 3 or standards check looking for?
A safe, that you keep the lesson safe. You're able to identify the faults, analyze them correctly. So put the consequences in, then put the correct fix in, and then what I would say is highlight the benefits of doing it that way. They're there ultimately. So let's think about this just a very slightly different way. So examiners are really good at watching the driver, because that's what they're trained to do. Yeah. They're also very good at spotting faults. Yeah. And they're also very good at giving directions. So if you're looking at the driver when the examiner would look for at the driver, if you're spotting the errors and putting a correct fix in, and if you're giving the instructions the way they would, how is the examiner going to feel in the back? Yeah, they're going to feel safe. Yeah. And if we can do that and get them feeling comfortable, yeah, then all of a sudden that will change the way they feel about you. Yeah. But if you're using, oh, we'll hang a right here. Yeah. Or you're looking at the window when you'd be expecting the driver to check the mirrors, the examiner's not going to have confidence that you will analyze the issues properly. So was that, sorry, in a simple statement, was that a simple statement?
It was for you. It was within 2.5 minutes. That's good. And on that note, we've reached 8 o'clock, so we're going to wrap up now. Before we go, Andrew, do you want to just tell people where they can find you?
Yeah. I'm in Kettering in Northamptonshire. It's Let's Instruct Partnership, or Let's Instruct Driver Instructor Academy. If you want my phone number, it's 07812 537 562. And you can find me on PDI ADI. Yeah.
Can you give me the phone number again? 807812
537 562. 07812 537 562. Yeah. And I do travel.
Well,
Lovely.
would you come
Thank
for
you.
some training in Northampton?
Yes, I would definitely come to Northampton. It's I'm up in Stoke soon. I've been in Grantham yesterday. So I travel. I've travelled to Inverness and down to Bude and all sorts of places. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Andrew, for joining me. And thank you, everyone. You guys are all here because you're in the empathetic group already, which is fab. Hopefully you get some good value from that and you know where to find me already. I think if Andrew's okay with it, we'll run another one of these sessions soon. Hopefully you guys have found it useful and beneficial. And if you need anything, as always, pop it in the group, message me, message Andrew, and good luck with your journeys and what you guys are up to. Have a lovely Tuesday evening.
Thanks a lot,
Good night,
everybody.
everyone.
Take
Thanks a lot.
care. Cheers.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye, Helen.
Bye.